Hi everyone, if you've been always wondering how to mock your APIs the easiest way possible, well, in this particular video, we will use a tool called Mockoon to basically mock any API and do different routes, different criterias, and add even fake data into it, all using the really awesome open source and free Mockoon tool. Also, we will use this into like a real world example, like on how to add this into your front-end application, which is running in React, and how you can use Axios to add this, and how you can create this from scratch to actually make this from a static UI into a real application using the fake data or using a mock server and make it interact with it in real time with different criteria and with different rules to work with. So Mockoon is a really great tool that allows you to easily mock APIs and just like have this testing API up and ready for your RESTful API application and just test with it. It's basically going to be very important for you. If you're looking for just like a really quick tool and very valuable, just go ahead and use it for like creating or mimic APIs before they are like created, or before you start into it, or before you just like want to have an idea of how the API would look like, or like would look like in the near future before you created it. So you can just go ahead and easily just have a demo in your like front-end application or something like this with React or JavaScript, and you can easily do it. So Mockoon does that exactly right, and it's a really awesome. It's open source and it's free, and it's actually a quick tool that you can go ahead and install. So if you go to the download section in here, you're gonna find this available for Windows, Linux, and Mac OS X. So you can quickly go ahead and install it. I have Linux, I've already installed it. It's pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory, so you can go ahead and look into this pretty easily. And after the installation, this is how it would look like. This is just a pretty simple, pretty basic interface for you, so you can just go ahead and easily have it together in here. So it's like clearly there's a body, there's a response, maybe status code, and there's actually different routes and different responses, and you can manipulate those through routes. So this is basically how it looked like. This is what Mockoon is, and it's actually based on Electra. So this is all like created and built using JavaScript and said before, and it's open source. So it's actually great for us as developers to use this particular tool to test our APIs or mock the APIs and actually use this demoed APIs on our front-end applications beforehand. So some of you might say, oh, why not just go ahead and use Postman, and we can just go ahead and use the mocking server, because Postman has its own mocking features and its own like mocking server that it creates, and it can like publish on the Postman kind of like domain or subdomain name, and you can only use that features. So some of you might say, oh, Postman is a really better choice, why not just go ahead and use that? Yes, I'm with you. Postman is a pretty good one. It's pretty well established application. It's used by millions of developers, but there's one single problem that Postman is actually missing, and I hope in the near future they will add this kind of features, which is like not allowing you or giving you the chance to basically do validation or do different routes on a specific criteria. So it doesn't allow you, for example, if you want to do a login route, it doesn't tell you, oh, like you can go in and check for the password, or say if the password matches this, return this particular response. Otherwise, if it doesn't match this particular password and username, return invalid credentials response or whatever that is. So unfortunately, Postman doesn't have that particular feature, which I would like them to add this in the near future, because I like the feature and everything. And of course, there's some restrictions, and the UI is not really intuitive. I found hard times actually just to walk through like this and how it works in the first before I found out about Mockoon. So you probably would have the same thing in here. So for example, products, you will have to add an example in here. So this example would be like, like whatever HTTP request it is, and it takes on a route, and it should return something, which is the body example in here that should be returned by the mock API. So this is how it would work basically behind the scenes, but this is not very practical, and I found this very hard to actually look through it. So yeah, you can go into like mock servers and create a mock server or a mock API in here, and you can like just go ahead and look, like copy the URL, you can grab the URL, you can go ahead and use the URL in here for example, or not here exactly, you can use here. So this is what it would return, but if you click like send in here, it would work perfectly. And make sure to add this sub route in here to access it, and once you do send, you're gonna find like the same request in here. But as I said before, there's no validation step, or it doesn't give you the like to allow criteria and return different responses on different criteria or different like bodies that's gonna be sent throughout the request. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into Mockoon and try to actually create our first request in here and see how it goes. So Mockoon has the same same like aspect of Postman, which is collections, but Mockoon has more of like something like environment. So here you can do like new environment or open environment. Click on the new environment. It gives you like where do you want to save this particular environment, because it's going to be just basically a JSON file, and you can take this JSON file and you can share it with other developers among your team or something like this, and they can have the same API up and running in seconds. Okay, so I already created this. I have this API in here, and here on the other section in here, you're gonna find route. So here, this is actually the base route, which is you know, only the / the root route more particularly. So this is what it looks like. So this is like, you know, you can just add a regex or a path in here. As you see how it would work in here. You can add different stuff. Documentation here, maybe like base. This would be base route. You can choose an HTTP method, which is pretty basic as well. And here you can see in here we have a response one, and using this button you can add as many responses as you would like. Then you can match with them using the rules in here. So the rules in here is actually the really awesome feature about Mockoon, which allows you to mix and match between different criteria in order to return different responses for different criteria. Like for login, you can check the email and the password and return like success, and return, for example, a JSON web token or a token to login if it's successful, and return error invalid credentials if it's not successful or if the email and password are wrong. Pretty simple. So this is what we would look from Postman to have, but unfortunately we can't. So this is why we use Mockoon, and it's a really awesome tool. So for example, here we can add just a basic route. So it's going to return 200 when it says in this route. And the headers, there's no headers, just default headers coming up. And here, for example, like the body, I want to say, I want to return the text, okay? I want to do like, welcome to the store. Let's say this is actually an e-commerce store or something. So we want to return that, okay? So once you make sure you have your stuff in here, you can go and click on the start server button, the green button on the top right here. And once you click that, the server is going to start. And how do you know the URL? So the URL is going to be automatically generated for you. So it always uses the 9,000 ports, and it always increments one per environment. So here we got like 9,003. Pretty easy. So you can go and just copy this one, and you can go to like maybe localhost. So you can go to like Google Chrome real quick and go like, for example, 9,003. Okay, so once you hit that, there you go. So you actually got into this pretty easily, and you got like, oh, welcome to the store, and our mock server is up and running. Okay, let's try to add a little bit more complicated kind of request and response compared to just a base route. So here you can go and add another route. As clearly it tells you, oh, these are like duplicate things. Of course, you need to change that. Let's say I'm gonna add a route that gets them the products. So this get products, or let's get store products. Okay. Pretty simple. It's going to be just a single response. It's going to turn 200. So because this is just a GET request, it's not post or anything. And here I'm going to return a bunch of products. So I can go ahead and just copy paste my products in here. I just got a list of products from a mock API in here. So this is what it would look like, or what it would return particularly. So it would return an array full of objects. Each object is going to represent a particular product and how it should look like. Okay, pretty simple. And as clear in here, if you just take a look, there is a yellow refresh server button appeared for us because we changed the body. So once you change the body, every single time you need to click on this one, and it will take effect just to reload the new changes. So if you go back in here, I'm going to go to /product and hit enter, and there you go. It's pretty simple and pretty consistent, and it's just like that easy. And if you want to test this on Postman, you can easily go in and do that. So you can just, open up a new request, put the body in here, or put the URL, sorry, and just click enter, and it's going to return that same thing that we wanted to do, or basically the same thing that we mocked on the body on Mockoon, and we get it in here. And it's clear to see you can access whatever you want. You can have like headers. What are the headers that are being sent automatically? And it's actually application JSON, and you can manage that. There's some cookies in here because it uses Express behind the scenes. That's why you're going to see that. But it's all pretty basic and pretty simple to actually use. And if you notice on Postman in here, so once we just click, it's just super quick in here, and it has absolutely no latency because obviously the mock server is running on the localhost server that we are testing with. So there's obviously no latency because we're basically on the same machine. Now, how do you mimic latency? Likely for us, Mockoon gives us this particular feature and it's actually working as you would expect it to be. So for example, if you go to this particular one, you're going to cite, oh, this is a route specific latency and it's going to apply it to only this particular route. But if you head to the settings, you're going to find latency that's going to be applied globally to all the routes. Okay, so let's say, oh, I just want this to be for this particular route. I don't want to apply this globally or any of that sort. I want just like super simple thing. Okay, I'm going to take this 2 seconds. So you can add 2000 because it's in milliseconds. That means 2 seconds, and it will just take 2 seconds for the projects. We don't need to refresh or restart the server for this. This is just like, a quick setting that can be applied immediately. So if you jump back to Postman, you click on that. As you see now, it's taking a little bit longer, which is 2 seconds to do that. And you can use this to make, for example, a loading spinner when you're dealing with UI stuff, and just to have the exact behavior of UI and how it would work perfectly. And maybe you can mimic errors with this, and like when the server takes like too long, maybe you can add latency of 10 seconds or 20 seconds and see how the UI reacts. Also for headers, you can easily add custom headers. For example, you can add, oh, this is like a mock API, is it using mock API? So it's going to be either true or false or whatever. You can add a header in here, and you can add as many headers as you want. Delete of that, of course, and you can easily do that. So if you go to Postman again, you click on that, you go to headers. As you can see now, it's actually sending more headers than it was before. And if we take a look, so this should be the header sent. Yeah, it's my bad. I should have clicked this one. So this is the response headers, and this is what it would look like. So there's mock API. It's just a custom header. It's set to true. So you can use different headers to basically differentiate between a production environment or just a mocking API environment or testing environments. Also, the great thing about Mockoon, it actually allows you to proxy request or non-defined route to a particular URL. So you can use this on a real world server where you only just have to like define a couple of routes that you want to override, but all the other routes that you would want just to keep them the same because you don't want any changes on that. And you can just like go ahead and say, oh, this is the proxy I want, this is the particular URL I want you to point to, and go ahead and request if there is no routes defined in here. And that's basically what a proxy feature is for. So if you go to like the proxy here for a particular environment, you can add a target URL. You can just like, you can do like proxy request headers, whatever that is, if you might need to for like authentication or any of that. But for example, I want this particular one. I want the fake store API.com, which is just a fake placeholder JSON, kind of like an API that just gives you fake data just back. And that's what it is, just like a RESTful API. So I want to do this. I want to make sure to enable proxy, and as you see, this is just, proxy mode enabled for this particular environment. And if you head over into this, you can go ahead and just like restart the server because you added a proxy, so you need the changes. You click on that, and that's it. Now, if you head into this one, if you go to the docs, you're going to find a different request. And one of these requests I want to use is actually the /users. So if I jump and there is like a users and there is like /users. So I want to just like do, let's say I go ahead and try this particular users one. So if you go to like Postman in here and try to get a new request, I'm going to copy the same URL in here. And I'm going to put it right here. And remember, for our Mockoon thing, we only defined /products and just like the base route, and that's it. So let's try to go ahead and go to basically do like /users, which exists on the proxy, but not on the defined kind of route on Mockoon. So I'm going to go /users, try to click enter, and there you go. So the proxy is actually working. It's returning this particular value of data. So the proxying is working. And this is a really, really awesome feature that could be actually working on a real world product. So I had this feature before where I just like only needed to mock different couple of APIs regarding the login, but I don't want to just like, mock everything. So I want to point my URL or my front end application to point into like what Mockoon is actually providing me, like the localhost 9000 port provided from Mockoon. And I want to use that, but I want to make sure to tell Mockoon, hey, I want to use this proxy, so any other routes that is not defined among of these, just go ahead and like proxy it to whatever proxy URL I'm giving you here. So let's say we've got this particular login page in here, and I want to mimic the API using Mockoon. So on the front end, or in this particular React application, whenever like I hit my email or enter a particular email and enter like a particular specific password, when I hit login, it should just like say, oh, you logged in. So I could text or basically test this particular feature, the UI feature, before like, let's say before the production API is ready by another developer and you are on a tight deadline, so you can't wait for the other developer to finish so you can start working, and Mockoon is a really great choice for you to go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and try to do that using Mockoon. So for example, in here we got only 2 routes. Now let's go and try to add another route that's going to take care of login particularly. So if you jump back in here and if you go to adding another route, we're going to add a login route. So I'm going to go in and do it here. I'm going to add a login, and I'm going to do like login to API or whatever, like authenticate with API. All right. That's pretty simple. That's the description of this. Now we got a single response in here. I'm going to do like 200. So I'm going to do the happy case in here. So I'm going to have 2 responses, one for the happy case. And what I mean by the happy case is whenever the user like enters a particular email, a specific email and a specific password, I want to say, oh, congratulations, this is the right one, and welcome back to, you know, our application or whatever. And if you enters anything, all of that specific details, the username and or the email and the password, you would just say, oh, invalid credentials, please try again, or please check out your credentials and try again. Something of that sort, okay? So the thing in here I want to return, for example, let me just copy this. So the body in here will be like something username. You're going to just like return his username once it's success. You're going to say status is going to be success. And I'm going to do like message, and you're going to do like welcome back. Maybe this should be like status text or something, just to differentiate. And you're going to have a token in here. And this is more like a GWT or a JSON web token that's going to allow it to authenticate and send it on a cookie to, you know, authenticate with that. Pretty simple. So this is the happy face in here. And if we want to add another response, I'm going to say, oh, this is the second response. It's going to be a 400 or like 401 for unauthorized. So you can't access that, or maybe forbidden. I would like more of an authorized in this particular case. So you can go in and do like error, and you can say invalid credentials. Okay, so you can just paste that, and this is the actual body that you would want to return once it hits in that particular route. Okay, we got both of these responses, and if you open up this drop down, you're going to see the response 1 is by default served. It's going to see default response served if no rule is matches. Okay, pretty simple. Now, how can you tell Mockoon is, oh, I want you to basically send this particular response on this particular criteria when the password and the email doesn't match, and I want you to send the first response if the password and the email matches this specific stuff. How can we do that? Luckily, Mockoon actually provide us with really awesome feature, which is called rules. So if you head into like from status and body to rules, you're going to find an empty page in here. And this is where you add your rules. So you can go in and actually enter the button in here or click on it to actually start a rule. So you can go into the drop down to select different stuff that you want to apply the rule on. So you can have body, query string, header, cookie, route parameters, and yada yada. And here actually the object path are empty for a full body. So I wanna match actually a full body. You could add to do like more particularly for an object path, like for example, say like maybe .email or .password in here to access a specific field. But for me, I'm just gonna leave it empty to access, or basically just do the rule on the full body. And I'm gonna say equals or null or empty array. I'm gonna leave it equals, and this is the value you should equal, okay? So for me, I got this particular body, and make sure to go ahead and copy the body, because sometimes the body is like invalid when you like send it from a browser or from JavaScript, and when just like enter it in here, like when you enter it by your own. So make sure to, you know, send just a quick request from here, like just do a login or something. You get a request, you copy the payload, and you come back into Postman, or sorry, Mockoon, and this is like you just paste that in here. So this is what I want, a password from 1 to 6, and I want this particular email from alex@mail.com. Simple. Okay, so this is what it would look like. This is the response 1, and this response 1 would be returned only if this one matches this. Simple and easy. Okay, and this one is default, so I don't want this to keep it default. I want to change this. I want to move it up. So this first one, it will become the default, the 401, which is the unauthorized, and the success one will be, you know, non-default. So this would be returned if in any case it would just return this one, and if it's just like successful, and if the body is actually gonna, you know, match this particular body we provided in here, it's gonna return the 200, which is successful. Okay, pretty easy. Now if we jump back in here, we got two responses, 1 and 2. Now let's go and try to use this particular API and see how we would look like. So for our code base in here, or like for our React code in here, where we're actually doing the request, it looks like this. So there's an onSubmit function, and this onSubmit, what it does is actually it uses Axios. So there's Axios in here, we're using Axios, and if you're not familiar with Axios, it's just basically a library that allows you to do HTTP requests on the go using JavaScript the easiest way possible. Okay, so Axios, we're doing a post request, which is exactly what we haven't specified in here. So if we need to go back in here, and that's what we forgot, is make sure to choose post request in here instead of get, because that's what it should be. And make sure to go in and restart the server so the changes would take effect. So jumping back, now we use our URL in here, and it should be 9003 because that's what Mockoon says in here for this particular environment. So it's be 9003. All right, so I'm going to jump back in here and I'm going to send my values, which equals to email and password. Simple. I got some catch method. I got just like login the response, and here's the check-in or where the check-in is happening. So if response status equals 200, then you say, oh, welcome back and I'm authenticating or whatever. Otherwise, if there's no response or the status code is other than 200, which is like 401 or anything, we don't care really. So it should be just like more, oh, invalid credentials, please try again or something like that. Now, if we jump back into our Mockoon, you're going to easily find, oh, this is response 1, which is a 401, and response 2 is a 200. So the 401 in here would be returning a status code of 401, which means unauthorized at all. And if you just jump into the other one, you're going to find 200, which means too successful, and everything is pretty much fine. Okay, let's go and try this one into the browser and see how that goes. All right, I'm going to clear out the network tab in here so you can see what I'm having. So I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to enter the right email, which is Alex. I think it's alexmail.com. And I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Password from 1 to 6. So if I click enter, there you go. Welcome back, authenticating. If you take a look on the request that has been sent and received, we can easily go in and see, oh, this is the payload. It's email alexmail.com, which matches our criteria. If we jump back to Mockoon, you can easily go to rules, and this is what it actually matches. Okay, that's why it's actually returning 200. And if we jump back, and there you go, it's actually returning the same body we asked it to do on Mockoon. So if we jump to Mockoon in here is the status, that's exactly what it's returning, and that is actually working fine. On the other hand, if you try to, do the wrong face, not the happy face, the sad face of this, is actually just, let's go and enter a wrong email, maybe something like this. Click enter, invalid credentials, and we get like a wrong thing in here. That happened on this one. I should select the full one just to get the timeline. There you go. It's 401 unauthorized, and it's returned by Mockoon, which is absolutely great. And I can just go back, do the same thing in here. This is, successful. If you go back in here and just like enter a wrong password, click on it, invalid credentials. So it's both checking the JSON we're sending in here as a payload, and it's actually trying to match in it with the same one we provided on the rules, or the rules one, which is this particular value in here. We said, oh, I want the body to actually the full body to match this particular value. Awesome. And also the great thing about Mockoon, and it actually provides fake data in real time. So what I mean by fake data is actually gives you a templating engine, which uses handlebars, behind the scenes or under the hood, and actually use that handlebars and it uses faker.js to basically generate a fake data, and it allows you to use a customized template to return different types of data every single time or every single request in real time. And actually pretty good. So for example, if you take a look into this particular body template in here, I copied from the official website. So actually it returns different stuff. For example, user ID, go ahead and uses the URL parameter in here and gives you the actual ID, which is the same URL parameter that you would put, for example, like ID equals something. It would just go ahead and use that and actually put it. And you can, for example, do query parameter, you can do a header, so you can go ahead and grab a header from the request and return it on the response as well. You can, for example, do an element title, you can do it that way as well. An IP address, you can return the same IP address of the current person without that much of stuff. It's all actually built on Mockoon, and it's actually those helpful functions are built and provided by Mockoon API, and you can easily use them throughout the whole template. So if we would like go ahead and try this one using Postman, so we go to the fake one in here, that's what we added. As clearly see, once I enter, as clearly see, this is what is being returned. The template is being like replaced in real time, and all the data is being replaced in real time on the template itself, and everything is working as expected to be. So for example, here the name is returned, the IP address, the same IP address of the user, which is the localhost IP address, different stuff. And if you notice in here, whenever I click send, there is a completely different type of data is returned. Alright, thank you guys for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed this particular video. Hope you actually can use Mockoon in a real good example. I've been using it for the last couple of months for different stuff, production stuff, and it's been going so sweet. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and catch you all hopefully in the next ones.